I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. My initial purpose behind this podcast was to bring SEOs together with a better understanding of what we do and maybe how to support each other, as well as the businesses that we serve. I'd like to see between an SEO or an agency and the businesses a more reasonable balance of power, or as I like to call it, how to say you're an optimist without using the word. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 28 of Confessions of an SEO. So it's no secret that this year has been a little more than just a little challenging to get back on a weekly schedule since May. So for those who've dealt with family loss, for those, I guess, who haven't, maybe understand that, empty chairs during the holiday, time passes differently. And so I honestly can't wrap my head around it's been 2 weeks since the last episode. So usually I have a Thanksgiving one, and yet being human took priority. It didn't get in the way of anything, but the mental construct of how you think things are going to go, sometimes you have to just yield to life a little. So I started wondering if, given that it's harder than it used to be to get everything done in the work week, might there be a way that I could adjust the process of creating episodes? No one but me says they had to be ready by Friday morning. And I guess that is the upside. The cool part of playing all the parts is that I don't even have to have a meeting to make adjustments. But if I did have a meeting, it would be that I'm going to adjust and get new episodes ready by Tuesday mornings, at least for the time being. And I'm happy to report it was moved and seconded. All in favor said aye. No one said no. So the motion passed. So yay, that was easy. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, if you listened to last week's episode, I was talking to you briefly because of the sound coming out of the backyard. There are no loud machines back this week, but I will tell you that I learned a lot about pool replastering. And I know, we're probably, a lot of us are SEOs. And if you're like me, and I think most of you are, we can't stop ourselves from looking at business models. And when I took a look at it, there's a lot of opportunity in pool refinishing. Now, I did not know this, but at least in Texas, if you don't have a pool and you want a pool, you're going to have to lay down pretty much over $100,000 to put in a brand new one. I mean, that is just crazy talk. But I guess it's the market, apparently. So I started kind of looking at all these pool companies and how they market their services. And honestly, I think there's so much more information that homeowners need compared to what appears on the normal pool site. Like, for instance, time of year to redo your pool. Now, you might be like me and think, fall, that's the best time to redo our pool in Austin because no one swims this time of year. Well, what they don't tell you is from November 15th, and mind you, I think we started on November 15th, until March 15th, Austin Water Utilities does what they call wastewater averaging. And apparently it's the way they calculate, I'm sure it's for capacity for the wastewater management, but they know how much you use, they just can't calculate how much goes back into their system. It's a little complicated, but the bottom line is homeowners this time of year are urged to not use a lot of water, which is like great because I just filled up a pool that probably took a little bit over 10,000 gallons. I mean, that's expensive. Anyway, any time of the year. But, my fingers are crossed that it just doesn't impact our costs of water for next year. But I don't know. That would have been nice to know about. And then there's the trees. And I know you're thinking, Carolyn, I thought you were talking about your pool. Well, I am, because there's trees around my pool, not directly around them, but they line up next to the fence and not really on my side, often on my neighbor's side. And there's one tree that my neighbor has that is gorgeous. And right now, it is gloriously bright yellow. Bright yellow as in the tree glows in the dark. It is so yellow, those leaves. Now, this is nothing new. This tree does this every year. But once it gets to the state of where you can't help but notice it because it's glowing, it reminded me that we're 1 week away from all those leaves giving up the ghost all at once in one day, and about 3/4 of them landing in our pool, which we have to fish out. So here's another factor, that when you replaster for 2 weeks, twice a day, the sides, bottom, chairs, benches, everything that's in there have to be brushed while the plaster cures. And that means no automatic little cleaner running up and down your new plaster, because you don't want to put grooves and all that nice, new, smooth prettiness. So in addition to all the brushing, guess who gets to also pop a net on the bottom of that long pole and literally scoop out every leaf cluster, because as I've learned, leaves can stain in the bottom of a pool. Now, I know that sounds like a serious first world problem. I'm not really bitching, okay? I am. There might be a touch of venting, but it'll be okay. But really, I'm trying to look at it from a consumer side and then look at the industry. So I think there's a deeper way to look at it. And, I'm sharing from a customer experience. And I have to say, again, as an SEO, there's some great content for a pool plastering page. Advice on what time of year to do this in your area. And then provide a list of what needs to be done afterwards. Prepare people so it's not a surprise. It's an expensive process, but why does it have to be so chock full of surprises? I know I'm not alone, because, this is, I think, as SEOs, we kind of live our real lives looking at things this way. And I'm not going to lie, I spent a fair amount of time in judgment of how these people run their business. But it also goes to show why the SEO's perspective on what a business does can shed some light in a positive way to help them not just to do the job they were hired to do, but also to take care of their customers. Now, it's also a little bit of ironic. I guess it has a flavor of ironic frustration. I mean, let's say if we compare what we as SEOs do and compare that with, what that company did. By comparison, SEO is far more intangible, and it's not really understood by our prospects or our customers. Now, customers know they have a website, right? But they don't really understand why they have to pay so much for us as SEOs or an SEO agency to adjust some content or add content or change it in any way. And these days, again, the other thing that most of them don't understand is how much time it takes to get a site to the point of where it can compete with everybody else for that position on page one. And deficits, they have to get first discovered, and then they have to get filled in. And then between the time to implement and see changes, that's us over here trying to justify, monthly billing, right? These pool guys get to come in, not really educate a homeowner, but there is zero doubt to what they are doing. They are fixing the damn pool. Now, I think what's interesting to me is they don't see, or at least the ones I spoke with, why they might want to educate a customer, because that takes time, right? And who, let's say, what homeowner is going to do a replaster job more than once? If you build a pool, it's supposed to be, they say, between 10 and 12 years. Now, we took care of our chemicals, and ours lasted 25. Maybe let's say 23. The last 2 years were pretty rough. But it's kind of like, I guess it may not be worth their time, but it would seem to me to be part of customer care, right? And that's my problem, right? Sometimes I get so caught up in someone else's business and how they could do more or do it better. And I know, don't judge me, because I've talked to more than some of you, and I know you do the same thing. The only ones that don't are what I call executive SEOs, those that aren't really working in the site or working on the client's business. They tend to do more schmoozing. They're not really that involved in the strategy. And all the more power to them, But for those that are working in the strategy, it is way too easy to get over involved. Now I'm going to make a TV reference here. You remember the TV show called Hannibal? I love the show, even though it was a bit graphic at times. And the guy who played Hannibal kind of gives me the creeps. I like him as an actor, but he really kind of gives me the creeps. And there's this FBI profiler who was able to, while he examined crime scenes of all these murders that he was called in to investigate, he would, I guess as part of his process, visualize himself committing the murders for the purpose of him being able to understand a killer's behaviors and thoughts. And throughout the series, the profiler's involvement with the investigations, you could see it slowly took its toll on his psyche, and with his ability to empathize with psychopathic murderers, to understand what they did, he kind of got a little bit confused about where the boundaries were, like who he was and who these murderers were. But here's my point. You take out the murders, the psychopathic topics, the FBI, and it's just like SEO. What often it feels like as the relationship between, let's say, a strategy SEO and a business owner. We sit there and we're deeply immersed into their business, and we were imagining all the opportunities. And when we present them, very often, I'd say more, I guess, than not, there'd be a lot of resistance, because the business owner is like, what do we know? They came up with the business. They're the ones that have to do the work. They should be the ones to decide. So just sit down, shut up, and do your SEO. Well, let's think about that. So those are just my thoughts. I hope you guys are all fine with a new launch day of the week for it to be Tuesdays. And I just want to take a quick minute. If you're using wikipedia.org, and if you're in SEO and you aren't, why aren't you? Because this is one of the original data training sets that Google started to use to understand relationships between words and entities. Yes, they've moved on fully, but this resource is basically in the hands of a responsible, not a perfect, third party to whose purpose is to keep the information free flowing, right? Not to present it with any kind of agenda or sales proposition. So instead of a corporate overlord, they were asking for $2.75. So that's worth it to me. So I hope if you feel the same and you can part with $2.75, if we all did it, we might be able to really create something extra special there and support them in the work, since they really do. I mean, they do it for other reasons, but SEOs get a lot out of Wikipedia. All right. And then if I may, we are talking about supporting important resources. Crawl or No Crawl is now available by subscription only for $18 a month. And you can check it out on Substack. There are free accounts which have access to the first 2 reports that cover Google's shift to mobile first indexing. So if you like getting original, data-driven, observational and data on indexation, crawling, indexing, scoring and rendering, serving, this is for you. Annual members who pay for a whole year, when they do that, they get 1 month for free, and they have viewing access to the data log history spreadsheet. So that's no longer going to be available publicly. So there's a lot of information in there, historical data, and it seems to be a fair price. I don't mind saying so. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you to the supporters of Confessions. Thank you for being a listener. Please come back and bring a friend. If you like this type of SEO content and stories and are too shocked by a little bit of Google bashing, consider becoming a monthly sponsor. Well, until next week, I will see you in the SERPs.